Okay, I think we're going now. Setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Okay, done. Redirecting to Facebook
It's
page.
live.
Oh, is it? Well, I
Mhm.
don't know where is it live. Okay, so I'll probably just like start talking. Okay, good evening, everybody. Adriana here. In this interview, I would like to welcome Charli Wall. Um, how I would love to kind of introduce Charli Wall is we've actually met like a long time ago, 10 years ago, and I'm going to say that twice in my life she put me on the right path. The first time was in actually giving me a job opportunity to work with her or for her or with her. How would I
With,
say?
with, with.
With to basically do boot camps. And now, so obviously in the last 4 months, she has been my coach and counselor, and she helped me to blossom into my whole like kind of happiness, and I'm actually able now to do my job properly. So Charli, welcome. If you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Adriana. That was actually a very nice introduction. So thank you for that. Yeah, so what a little bit about me in terms of introduction. Oh gosh, sorry, that's my texting. Sorry about that. I'm 48, and as Adriana said, we worked together. I ran a boot camp in Cambridge Boot Camps. It was called, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful business. But then I sold that in 2017 and embarked on a journey of, I guess, self-discovery, post some quite difficult grief, and discovered myself, funnily enough, which I had been looking for in all the wrong places. So that's a little bit about me. I have a son who's 20, and I currently live by the sea in Norfolk.
Excellent. So kind of basically, so in this kind of video, I would just kind of like to, well, actually for you to kind of help others kind of understand kind of how you help people, like especially like women our age. So how do you actually what is your work about now?
Um, my work is about listening, really deep listening, and helping point the women back to who they truly are. And if they're anything like me or how I used to be, I thought there was something wrong with me. Um, and I had evidence that there was something wrong with me because I'd had, traumatic grief, and I had a list of what I thought to be character flaws, and and um, I thought I was broken, and I had lots of evidence for that. So my evidence for that was that I had binge starve eating cycle. I had what's commonly known as post-traumatic stress disorder, which I lived with for over 20 years. I had chronic anxiety. I had addictions and habits, addiction to the gym. Um, I had various addictions to drugs and alcohol, addiction to working, addiction to face picking. I had quite a lot of habits of behavior. And so I was constantly looking for an answer. So I had counseling myself, psychotherapy, CBT. I thought exercise was the answer. I thought nutrition was the answer. So I explored all those avenues and would just have like a tool kit, a kit that I would get out whenever my clients came to me and thinking, this is the answer and this is the answer. And what I noticed really interestingly through my career, I was also an addictions counselor at Adam Brooks prior to setting up the fitness business. What I noticed in all of those kind of modalities and helping people with addictions and helping people with their nutrition was that sometimes the women would, or the men, whoever I was working with, would get it, would change their life. There was something that happened, And I would get curious about that because I think, well, that's interesting because it didn't work for me. And I wonder why, like what it was it about that particular tool and strategy that worked for them. And over the years, I just kept getting curiouser and curiouser, and I'd study more and learn more and put another kind of, qualification and put that in my tool bag. And it wasn't until I came across this understanding that I now teach, that I now live from, that I realized that change comes from fundamentally seeing something from within yourself. So it was never the strategy or the tool that implemented the change that I saw in the clients that I had. It was an insight that they themselves had had. So it was nothing to do with my bag of tricks. And once I saw that for myself, because I myself had an insight into my own unbrokenness and my own habits of behavior and my own habits of thought, that I realized, oh my goodness, so you've been looking outside of yourself for over 20 years and chipping away, thinking that this might help, this will be a band-aid, this will fix it, if only I'm thin, if only I'm clever, if only I'm in the right relationship, if only I'm whatever, it had this much in my bank account, like if only I'll be happy. And I was always looking in the wrong place. So the work that I do, because I've seen that for myself, is to show people that change is not hard. And we've been conditioned to believe that change is hard. And actually, change is happening all the time. Everything is changing all the time. And that's the ironic way change happens, really, because it's always happening. It's just that because we get stuck in our thoughts, we get stuck in this kind of Groundhog Day, we don't realize that. We don't realize that it's coming from within us. So the work I do is to help people see, through insightfully seeing that, I'm pointing them upstream. And in that space, magic happens. That's in my experience of my clients. It fundamentally changes them. The way I describe it, as you know, is like the iceberg model of change. So if you see an iceberg, you and I can see 10% of that iceberg, and 90% of that iceberg is water, it's invisible. But the 10% of that iceberg that we can see is what it's a metaphor, it's like what we see about us. There's something wrong with me, and what's wrong with me is that I'm too fat, or I can't sleep, or I'm too anxious, or I'm depressed, or I can't stop eating biscuits. And that will be the tip. That will be your own personal tip. That's what you'll be able to see. It's often what's visible to others. I was told I was a control freak and very bossy, and I'm sure you probably remember me being like that. And that was my anxiety, but it's what people can see, right? It's what people can see. So we chip away at the tip of the iceberg, CBT, or psychotherapy, or whatever. Like we add on things and chip away at the tip of the iceberg. But the way we have a fundamental change is by looking at what's underneath, looking at the 90% that's invisible and what's true of all human beings. And that starts to melt. That starts to shift the foundation of your understanding about yourself, and seeing that you're not broken and that you never have been broken is key to that. I don't know if that all made sense, because I could rabbit on about this for ages, but anyway. That's the work that I do.
So what would you
Sorry.
say that is, can you hear me properly?
I can, yeah.
Okay, so
I can hear you.
Okay, how would you describe what is in that 90% of iceberg that you don't see? What is that? Where is that change coming from when someone wants to change and it doesn't want to focus on what is only visible?
I guess it's seeing that we are way, way, way more than the tip of that iceberg. It's seeing that the part of you that doesn't change, the part of you that's stable, is the part of you that's experienced all your life. So as you've been, little you or teenage you or adult you or whatever it is you've been through in your life, there's a part of you in here that's always stayed the same, that's never changed, that's observed all of that and experiences all the thoughts. And so in terms of like the ironic way that change happens, like for an iceberg, I only have to raise the temperature 0.5% to change the structure of that iceberg, which means I only have to show you a teeny tiny bit of truth about your unbrokenness, about your stability, for you to start to shift that foundation. So if we can see that thoughts come through us, they are not us, that we misidentify with those thoughts. And a lot of us spend a lot of time in our head. So we're in the past, we're in the future, we're planning, we're future planning, we're worrying, we're overwhelmed, we're procrastinating, whatever you want to label it. If you can see that that's just a lot of thought that we're paying attention to really innocently, if you can see that underneath all that is your health, is your innate well-being, is that wisdom and common sense that you were born with, that's what I show people. That's where I point people to. And that's very hard for people to hear often, because we've been conditioned to believe that something outside of you is responsible for your happiness.
Yeah. I can just to tell you that kind of when we kind of started working together, and I remember when you've explained the iceberg, and when you kind of started saying, and even now listening how you're saying, at that time it was so alien to me, and I didn't even understand kind of what you meant by, I don't know, when that iceberg starts to melt. But now I actually can connect that what what from my experience was when you kind of started kind of pointing out to wisdom and intuition and common sense, that literally everything, as you said, like a whole foundation of my life has started to change, because I didn't pay attention anymore as much on my thoughts. And now I can say months later that I really notice the difference when they come, when I pay attention to them. And it's kind of getting easier and easier to let go, and also to understand when they come, when I get overwhelmed, that it really doesn't last a long time. While before, I just got sucked into it and I just couldn't get rid of that feeling, just because I was so consumed by it. But what could you describe to me about the thoughts, just to kind of in general, kind of where they're coming from, what are they? So from your perspective, of your understanding.
So the way it looks to me now, this is that's there's so many places I could go to with that question. We all have thought. Okay, every one of us has thoughts. So whoever's listening to this right now will be listening from their thinking mind. So they might be listening to what we're saying sometimes, and then other times they might go into their thoughts. So they might start thinking about, what am I going to have for dinner? Or let me just check Facebook because this is boring. Or I don't agree with this. Or I do agree with this. Or whatever. Like everyone will have an experience of this interview through their thoughts. And we have thoughts about all every day. So we experience life through our thinking, and it's unique to us, but it is impersonal. So how all human beings work is that we all have thought. And another metaphor would be like the blue sky, right? So we are the blue sky. Think of it like that. And this is an old metaphor, and I know it's very commonly used, but it's quite a nice one to get a feel for. Like at the moment here in Norfolk, it's been quite hot. So the clouds are just kind of sitting there. There's not many clouds. It's a beautiful blue sky. But yesterday it was incredibly windy. So the clouds were moving through quite quickly. Now for us, if we think of that stability, that part of us that hasn't ever gone anywhere, that's the blue sky. And we have lots of thoughts that move on through all the time. And it's talking to us. It's narrating life all the time. And then we get caught up in quite a lot of stories, usually about how we're not good enough. But those thoughts they're not ours. It just sounds like that it's coming from us because it's in our voice and it's about our life and it's about the characters in our life. So it feels very personal. But just to get a sense for, as normal as it is for clouds to kind of pass through the sky, and they always pass through, the sky doesn't have to do anything to make the clouds move through. We don't have to do anything to make the thoughts pass through. They want to move through. Everything's moving, everything's fluid. When we get a bit sticky and a bit Groundhog Day is when we pay attention to the same thought that comes up over and over and over again, and we ruminate on that, and then that kind of, it's a bit like a little fireball moving through, and then we pour petrol on it because we think, oh my god, you know, that's that the way I'll give you an example where I was working with a woman and she was talking on one of the group calls that I do. I'm not sure whether you were at this one. Anyway, she was talking about how she's somebody who has like body image, issues. And she'd put on a beautiful dress and she was kind of like, working it, and she'd gone to work and she was feeling confident and happy. And a woman came over to her desk and she thought, this woman looked at her stomach and in her mind, she went, oh my God, that woman thinks I'm fat. And in that one moment, from having that one thought, which was familiar, she went into, I feel heavy, I feel uncomfortable, I feel fat. And the rest of her day, as she described it, was challenging, because then she felt horrible. She was horrible to her family and went into, I must fix this, I must do this, I must do that, I'm not good enough. But that one thought that she had, that woman thinks I'm fat, set off a whole kind of cascade for her thinking. But it's the same energy as, this is a cup of juice, this is some sellotape, there's a dog outside. It's the same energy. I don't have any thinking about a dog. I don't have any thinking about my juice. I don't have any thinking about sellotape. Some people do, right? I might have done if that was wine in that glass. I used to have a lot of thinking about wine, right? But just, that's the difference. We individually, uniquely give energy to certain thoughts. And the baseline usually is, I'm not good enough. But seeing that we live in a lot of conditioned stories, that you're not in the past anymore. The past is gone. The future is an unwritten equation. The constant variable is your thinking in a moment, which is why sometimes your other half or your children, you want to kill them. And other times you love them, love them, love them. But they haven't changed. It's your thinking about them that's changed. So that's the constant variable, and that's what's true of all humans, and it passes, always. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what that was outside my house.
Someone building your house and you don't know.
Does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
So because obviously I had issue, and what I see now that is just so many so many people that I know, what we seem to all kind of really get caught up is just so much thinking, like heavy thinking. I would describe from my experience, so I would say 8 years of very heavy head, noisy head, almost just a brain fog all the time. So how would
Yeah.
you um, how would you say what is that, and how to get out of there? Kind of like how to kind of start slowly unrolling and understanding to kind of see actually that there is the way out.
Well, I think there are two answers, the two parts really to that question, because the how to is it's seeing something for yourself. It's insightfully seeing something. And because we have been conditioned to think that there's something that needs to be fixed and that our thoughts are us, some people hear you are not your thoughts, and some people don't hear that, and some people will fight it, and so it's in the understanding, and it's certainly in love and understanding. It's being gentle with yourself, it's being loving to yourself, it's noticing where your mind will automatically go. And that's what I do. That's the bulk of the work that I do, is to help people see that that thought isn't telling them anything about them, and that your feeling, I hope this makes sense, but your feelings, the biggest misunderstanding is that your feelings aren't telling you anything about you as a person. They're only ever telling you about the content of your thinking. So if I feel angry in a moment, what my brain will do, because it's a machine, is look outside and go, right, you're feeling angry. What's the reason? Or it must be your partner, or it must be those noisy neighbors, or it must be whatever. And the misunderstanding is that then we go, guilt is another, like, so guilt is a big one, right? You've all heard of mum guilt or wine guilt or whatever, like guilt. A lot of us feel guilty, like we have to do this because I feel guilty. The biggest misunderstanding there is that guilt is telling us about who we are. So if I say to you in a moment, often I'll say to clients, like, what do you think that feeling of guilt is telling you? And they'll say, oh, I need to do that, otherwise I'm not good enough, or I should be doing that because, or I shouted at my child and I feel guilty because. But all it is it's telling you about the content of your thinking. And if we know that, there's lightness in that, there's freedom in that, because we can all lose our temper in a moment, and then that moment's gone. And then the only reason and the only way it can carry on is if you feel guilt, and then you layer on more thinking, then you layer on the judgment, and then you sit in that heaviness. And then, of course, you just feel miserable and crap. And then what are you likely to do? Shout again. So it's the same with habits. We will go to habits like chocolate or wine or whatever it might be, sex, gambling, going on the internet, whatever, because intuitively we know there's a settling from the heaviness.
Yes.
And lots of people don't know that there's a settling down. So we'll go to watch the TV or we'll do the thing because that's coming from intuition, but then that becomes a habit, and then that habit becomes a problem. There's something wrong with us because the biscuits are calling me, or I'm drinking whatever. And no, there's nothing wrong with you. And for people to hear that you're not broken, there's nothing wrong with you, these are only thoughts, and there's a neurological reason why they keep repeating themselves. So the how to is in the understanding. It's insightfully seeing that your brain is brilliant, it's working perfectly, and that's why you have habits. Your brain is a machine. It's a habit forming, pattern forming, routine making machine that's got your survival at its heart, but not your happiness. Your happiness comes from something else. Your happiness comes from you, deep inside of you. And we've just misidentified with our thoughts. Anyway, so the heaviness is because we have lots and lots and lots of thinking about our thinking.
Yeah.
And then we live in that.
Exactly. What I'm kind of on a daily basis, what I'm kind of like reliving your words is kind of when you said, obviously kind of through our work together, is kind of the thoughts are not you, but your only kind of what is truth is your wisdom and intuition and common sense. And since you told me that, because obviously I always had a lot of thinking about my intuition, actually constantly questioning, why am I getting all those ideas? Why am I having the urge to go somewhere? Especially kind of before I came to England, I always had that urge that I couldn't even describe. And since you said that, it kind of suddenly everything started to make sense. Kind of, why am I actually functioning in a way that I just get so many ideas? And by me pushing down for many, many years, kind of just pushing that urge to do things that I really wanted to do. And now I suddenly realized that was literally just my own thinking. And I just find the whole process just so liberating, that when you actually manage your thoughts and understand how they appear and what they are, that kind of just that misty part of our, I don't know, just that brain fog, when it's gone, that you can actually start noticing life from a much better perspective. And that's how I feel like where actually the enjoyment starts.
So
So
what was it for you? What was it for you that what did you see for yourself that enabled you to see through that illusion of your heavy thinking?
well, for me, it was kind of, um, it was actually just the biggest insight, that because I just kept paying attention to my thoughts, that, and when you said that that was my reality, and because how the reality from my perspective started being harder and harder, then I started feeling, especially kind of when, let's say, when I was having depression and the anxiety, and that's when you said, and then I started feeling I am broken and I need to be fixed. And
Mm.
so, what my next question to you would be, so let's say, how would you now describe depression? I know depression and anxiety are two different things, but let's say if someone now suffers with depression and anxiety, how would you now describe, so that it's not clinical depression, but how would you now describe depression and anxiety?
Well, my background is in mental health, as you know. So I, knew all of the and worked with a lot of the DSM diagnoses. I see all of us as having mental health 100% of the time. And I see that some of us have a particular tendency towards thinking about the past and feeling that kind of deep rest, that need for deep rest, depression. Some of us just have a natural tendency to go there. Others of us have a natural tendency to go towards anxiety, to kind of speed up and go really fast and try and control and get worried about the future, because that's all actually anxiety is. So it's the thinking that looks real to us. So for 20 odd years, the thinking that looked real to me was anxious thinking, that I had to control everything, that it was all on me to make everything okay. In the same way that people with chronic pain, so some people have a tendency to kind of go into chronic pain, and that's those things I see now as are gifts. I don't see them as uh, evidence that you're broken. I see them now as gifts, individual gifts, and we'll all have our own version of what that gift is. And it's your body's way of trying to wake you up to the truth. So if I start to feel anxious now, I know that my body's kind of just trying to wake me up. And it's saying, you're just paying attention to thoughts that aren't serving you, because that's my particular flavor. Same with alcohol, it's just my particular flavor. It's a habit that I created over years. So I don't see them as illnesses. I see them now as just where a person is in their thoughts. And we're all unique, but gosh, like I work very closely with a psychiatrist, Dr. Bill Pettit, who's on my own podcast. And, you know, there are now, I don't know, a lot more diagnoses in the DSM for psychiatry, because each of us are so unique, like snowflakes. We're all as unique as snowflakes, but we all work the same. And we're much more similar than we are different. So if someone comes to me to talk to me and they say I've got depression, I'll listen, of course, because it's very real for them. But it will give me a sense of how their thinking takes form in a moment, and how they've innocently got caught up and misidentified with that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's so again from my precious experience, um I do remember really clearly what was my thinking, and it was constantly thinking about what's wrong with me and searching for answers in the past. And kind of when everything kind of started, it was actually interesting. There was that part when I kind of, after kind of my breakdown or burnout, that kind of depression, obviously kind of, I kind of pushed it away, but then anxiety kicked in. And there was, for me, it was such a, like a very visible transition from one thing to the other, which probably was kind of like, okay, I moved from the past, but now I was worried about the future. How am I as a person going to walk into the future? So basically, just me thinking about what's going to happen next just caused me so much stress and
Mm.
fear from, kind of everything that comes up with the anxiety. But So, what my question would be, so kind of, would you describe me those three principles that you are teaching? Just to kind of quickly touch them. So, kind of all those three complicated
I
principles.
can try and articulate them. I can try my best. So the three principles is the understanding that I teach, and I didn't make it up. It was uncovered by a man called Sydney Banks in the 1970s. And he had what's commonly known as an enlightenment experience, where he saw that we are creating our reality through these three gifts. And the reason they're quite difficult to articulate is because they're formless. So they're working through us, within us, whether we see it or not. And they're not a prescription. So it's not like I'm teaching you a strategy or a tool. I'm telling you something that you already deeply know. It's just that we've forgotten. And it's through these three gifts that we kind of experience life. So mind, the three are called mind, consciousness, and thought. And mind is like the intelligence behind life. So it's how our nails grow, how our hair grows, how we can make babies without really doing anything apart from eating gherkins, how we naturally know we need to go to the toilet, how our food gets kind of, how our cells replace themselves and regenerate. We don't have to do anything. The seasons change. We don't have to do anything. It's not on us. My dog knows what to do. I don't have to teach her what to do. There's an intelligence behind life that some people call God, some people call source, some people call the universe, whatever you want to call it. There's an undeniable intelligence that is bigger than us. And that is within us, all of us. And that's what, like, you'll hear, probably you refer to this, I refer to this as wisdom or common sense. So we have that intuition, we have that innate well-being. So that's mind. Consciousness is our ability to be aware of it all. If I'm having an operation and I'm under anesthetic, I actually have got no consciousness and no memory, and I have no clue what's happened. But if I'm awake or if I'm asleep, I'm dreaming, there's a consciousness, there's an awareness. So that's what that is. And thought is the creativity, the potential, how we create our reality. It's through thought that everything kind of gets created. You can't have an experience without thinking about it. So, but if I put them, like the way I articulate that, it puts it into a kind of bracket, it puts it into a form, it puts it into something like, oh, CBT, or, you know, people will listen from that place. Like I was saying, you know, they're listening either to themselves or to us from a place of, well, that makes sense, or that doesn't make sense, or I agree with that. They're using the power, the gift of thought to do that. It doesn't work any other way. It works from the inside out. And it took me a long time to get my head around just that. I got constantly asking my own coach, what's consciousness? I could get mind, right? I could get the divine, you know, yes, the trees, the seasons, the sea, the moon. I love it. I love that. I love nature. I could really get that, even though I'm not religious. But the others, I was like, And it was only when I had my own insight into my anxiety, I had a new thought, which means we've all got the potential for a new thought, all of us. I had a new thought that came in that said to me, you've been creating your anxiety because you didn't know you were already safe, and you've been trying to keep yourself safe. And I was just blown away. I mean, it gives me goosebumps now when I say it, because I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. I've been a right pain in the ass for 24 years.
Oh, yeah. I actually, when you said that to me before about new thoughts, I never understood until it happened. And because obviously, like, we all kind of have, you know, our own thinking, we're all having our own reality, and kind of what's that new thought? And it was, I'm just going to say the example of actually kind of what happened just the other day. It was about that, you know, gym choice. So I was just thinking, okay, I'm going to go back to my old gym, and that's kind of where I kind of made a decision. And then while I was just doing something else, I just had a thought, why do you even want to go there? That's nothing there that kind of actually make, or actually that I enjoy. So I actually questioned my decision, and that was like the first time that actually I had a proper insight. Oh, that's a new thought, where I actually challenged my own thinking. I'd say my old thinking, and it was like, oh my God, it was really powerful. And I was like, oh, that's what she's talking about. It's, yeah, it's just, it's really, really simple. I mean, it's all, the whole understanding is just it's simple, but it makes it kind of like it can't be true. I remember when we just started like 4 months ago, obviously, like you asked me the other day, kind of what was my progress in the last 4 months, and it was from me not being able to work more than 8 hours a week, now actually making huge decisions to actually really out there, and to actually not worry what other people think, which is very crazy. So I don't want to actually waste more of your time. Oh my God, that's amazing, Charlie. So where people can find you, how they can, you're doing a lot of stuff. So you can
I
say
am. I mean, you're not wasting my time. Just to say that. It's.
forever.
I enjoy your company very much. I think you're wonderful. People can find me through you. I have a website which is iamcharliwall.com, and it's Charlie with an I. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on all of them really. But I have a Facebook group, a free Facebook group that's called She Finds Freedom from Habit, Self-Loathing and Anxiety. That's my free group. That's where I do most of my kind of educating. And and I work with people one-to-one. I have a circle group, which is like an add-on to the free group, and we have monthly guest interviews, and I do group coaching in that, and that's a wonderful circle of women. And then I have the 8-week freedom program, which is going to be running again in September, I hope, which is the all of what I teach on video format, but in a group form. So there's weekly group coaching, and that's incredible. And I break this understanding down to little video snippets, and really try and use different metaphors to help people really get to grips with who they truly are, and that they're not their thoughts, and that they're not their stories, and that they are so much more than they think they are. And that's I know I'm biased, but I think it's incredible.
Amazing. I have done it, and it is amazing, especially because you get the videos every single week, so you don't kind of have like a huge overload, so you can literally just go at your own pace, and it's very insightful, so you can just really understand it. And also I think it is like in a group format is where you actually see that you are not alone with your problems and struggles. And when you start listening others, you almost feel like you are actually getting help in just listening others, which is just incredible. Actually, you kind of not to compare yourself to anybody else, but to actually see sometimes that some people are having, let's say, not bigger problems, but more complicated lives. That, and it is amazing. I will put the links under this video, because I'll plaster this video on YouTube as well. So I'll basically put all the links down. So can anybody who's watching this video just get access to your free group?
Yeah. So if you just find it in the search engine, I mean, you're in the group, aren't you? So I don't know if they could find it through you or through me, but if the ladies in your group want me to put the link in, I'll put the link in. But it is literally capital She finds freedom from anxiety. No, from, oh, it's just such a long name, I might have to change it. From habits, self-loathing and anxiety. But because we know, I was in Cambridge, there might be a lot of women in there already that they know, so it is likely to come up. But if you put the link up, or I'll put the link up,
they'll probably think them two together again and say, how did that happen?
And why not, eh? Like, I think people meet for a reason.
Exactly.
But I think people come into each other's lives for a reason, and at the right time. And that's not on us.
I actually feel like in my life, I was literally like a train off track. And 2010, you took me like a little train and put me on track. Off I go, off the track. And then you put me, okay, Adriana, I think it's time for you to go back on track again. Yay! And now, well, Charli, honestly, I am just so grateful for this.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
And for all the help you helped me to return back to who I am. And it's actually really powerful, because I think lots of women our age, or maybe like who pass 35, 40, I'd say maybe who go in different stage of life, they really feel like lost, like completely with loss of identity. And I just feel, with obviously your understanding and with your help, it's, you suddenly almost get, not that someone tells you the proof, it can not to give you the proof, but it's kind of like to give you a different insight. And you say you haven't lost yourself, you're there, but you just made yourself think that you basically, you're not you're not you anymore. So I think it's really powerful what you do, that you kind of, you put all those lost trains back on track. Off you go. Chase your dreams. So what would be your kind of like a message to all women out there who are listening, who lost themselves, who are, feel like they're broken? What would be your message?
Don't give up hope, because you look at the light in Adriana's eyes, you see the sparkle there, and she's showing you the light. And I was probably, as you know, in my belief, as broken as you thought you were. And you only need a few photons of light to see again in the dark. And if that's what we can, you know, show you that that's possible, then don't give up. Have our faith that it's possible, because it is. Because I would have said to you that, you know, in my darkest moments, it was impossible, and it isn't. So just don't give up hope, and you are not broken, and you are so much more than you think you are.
Okay, so if someone wants to see the light, they need to contact you. You can pull them out of their darkness. Well, Charli, I'm very grateful, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I really hope this isn't going to be the last one. So
No, it's been good fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And if anybody has got any questions, do just put questions below. And Charli's in the group, so she's going to answer it. Or if she can't see it, I'm literally just going to tag her if you need to have any specific answers. But Charli, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for asking me.
Well, it's a pleasure. And I hope to see you in 2 weeks.
You will.
Our counseling session. So keep me going. Charli, speak to you very soon.
All right. Lots of love.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye.